This episode of The Edge is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek.fm at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the nonprofit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org. And if you want to join the conversation and share your thoughts on this episode, join the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type BABEL into the Facebook search field. We look forward to seeing you there.
You're listening to Trek FM.
What have you done out there on the edge of Federation space?
Hello and welcome to Tracks from the Edge, Trek FM's The Edge sub-show, in which we provide audio commentary for each and every episode of Star Trek Discovery. I'm Mike, and today I'm here with my good friend Max to talk about Episode 1 of Discovery, The Vulcan Hello. How's it going, Max?
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. I have to say, if there's one person in the world who I would want to talk about new Star Trek with on a commentary, it's you. Because, I mean, for one thing, we've done a billion commentaries together, but...
I was going to say, because that's a really specific thing. Like, you know, if there's one person I'd want to get a lemon meringue pie with next to the Grand Canyon, it would be my Uncle John.
I didn't mean to put so many qualifiers on it. But
no, it's okay. I'm just, using guilt to make people feel better about me.
That's cool. But seriously, it's like we've talked about Star Trek both on mic and off mic for, about 17, 18 years now. 17,
if
17
you go
years.
back all the way, probably 18.
It was
probably more.
Like
more
I remember, pulling out the 2-page spread of the NX-01 from the TV guide, which was the big reveal of the ship, and showing it to you for the first time, hanging it up on the wall of the booth at work, and it's like that's how far back it goes to the start of the last Star Trek show. So to be here to talk about new Star Trek, I mean, that's kind of a rare occurrence. And I think
it's only happened 1, 2, 3, 4, like only 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, you got to count the animated series, though, right?
Well, I mean, since that point.
Okay. No. I mean, I'm not talking about the movies or anything. You know what I mean. I mean, this is brand new Trek.
Yeah, it's a Star Trek TV show, which arguably is what it should be. Yeah.
And the other thing about it, which I'm very curious about, since we're recording this, mere hours, like 22 and a half hours after the show premiered, I literally have no idea what your thoughts on what we're about to see are. So I'm definitely curious about that as well.
It's interesting.
I'm sure it is, and I'm sure we'll get into it very soon. So what we're going to do, for those people who don't know, for those people who might be new to this concept or whatever, is this is an audio commentary for Star Trek Discovery Episode 1, The Vulcan Hello, where we're going to be watching along with the episode. Now, if you're not watching along with the episode, that's fine. As long as you've seen the episode, you'll know what's going on. But we will do our best to stay in sync and to stay on point and all that stuff. Now, since some people have commercials and some people don't have commercials, we're going to do the Ron Moore thing and note the end of each act. so that people can follow along and pause their podcasts if they need to wait for the commercials to roll through. And the other thing that we're going to do, since it's on various apps around the world, we're going to start at the first frame of black after whatever logo you have. So if you're in America, first frame of black after CBS All Access. If you're in Canada, first one after the Crave logo or whatever it is. And the rest of the world, first logo after Netflix. So,
Holy cow.
yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
There's so many different versions.
I know.
You already know what they all are.
It's crazy, right?
If you're watching this in the distant future, it's right after the Illuminati logo.
So, yes. So we're going to get it started up. We're 7 seconds in on the American version. We're going to start this up in 3, 2, 1, start. Okay,
all right,
so there's
going.
black, and we'll let you know when something comes up on screen. There's
I see
Klingon,
subtitles.
Klingon subtitles. They are
Klingon
coming.
subtitles.
All right, and here we do. We cut to this shot, atom by atom. Okay, so now, I mean, this is an interesting introduction in that, you know, it's obviously starting from the perspective of the Klingons, in particular T'Kuvma. Much has been made of this character. Much has been made of the Klingons. What are your thoughts on the look of these Klingons?
I think you know, they're pretty cool looking. You know, the designs are really interesting. There's that part of my brain that I can't ever turn off that is going, that doesn't fit like timelines.
But
History,
they do say
chronology, canon.
They do say in Enterprise, they're like, some will have ridges and some won't, you know?
Yeah, but like, I mean, let's just flash forward. All 24 houses show up.
Uh-huh.
They all are really ridgy, and none of them have hair.
Yeah, okay. But, I mean, to me, like, I guess I'm okay with that because Klingons have always evolved in terms of their look and everything like that. And, you know, I think if everyone hadn't made such a big deal out of it, if I had just seen this without the internet existing and I was just watching new Star Trek, I'd be like, oh, cool, they updated the Klingons, because of course you would, because it's the year 2017.
Okay, but like I'm not aware of whatever the internet was freaking out about before this.
They were freaking out about how they don't look like Klingons.
Right. Like I don't really care so much that they don't. I'm past it, but like there is a part of my brain that's just like, is there a way to make it make sense?
Sure. And that you know, that's a common thing. But okay, so now here we are. We're on this planet where we're with Georgiou and Burnham, and the thing that I find to be really interesting about this
Let's
scene...
just call her Mike.
Okay.
That'll be easy.
All right, that's cool. With Mike,
we can keep track of that easily.
Mike and Phil. Yeah.
Mike is a character on screen.
Yes. And this scene to me is really interesting in sort of the context of recent Trek, in that I find it to be very similar to the opening of Into Darkness, in that there is a culture which has not quite reached the technology that the Federation has or whatever, and they're in danger of becoming extinct, and the Federation is going in on the sly and saving them.
Yep.
And whether or not that's a violation of the Prime Directive, or as they call it here, General Order 1, right? I think is the name of it. Now, they do have one little line of dialogue in here which kind of makes it, you know, slightly different, whereas in the Into Darkness opening, it was a natural disaster. Here they say it was a disaster caused by a mining accident on a nearby meteor or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, and also I guess in some ways there's the historical perspective in that the Prime Directive doesn't exist yet. It's General Order 1 or whatever, you know, which I think is something from, you know, the past or whatever. But when you think about it, like, this is 2256. I know it's an alternate timeline and everything, but Into Darkness...
Wait, is it?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, alternate from the JJ verse.
Okay.
But the JJ verse, that movie takes place in the year 2259. So it's really only 3 years after this. So whatever. Anyway, kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's another interesting part, which to me, this feels more like a statement of intent than it does of like a choice which was made for the benefit of the actual show. But this scene was shot in Jordan, and they made a big deal out of how like they went to Jordan to shoot, a sequence in the pilot. And it's like they're literally just walking around a desert, right? I mean,
Yep.
like, does that really justify? And I mean, there's a huge part of me which says I didn't pay for it, so why should I care, right? But
Yeah.
just kind of like looking at motivations and stuff in terms of whatever, it just seems very strange that they would go all the way to Jordan to shoot this, essentially James Bondish cold open, and that it doesn't really have anything to do with, you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Like I know what you mean by the statement of intent. Like like we're making this decision like in order to say like where Star Trek is about the whole world.
Well,
It's about
there's that, but I think there's also like we're sparing no expense. Like
yeah,
this
we're
is
not thinking small.
yeah,
Like we're going for a desert. Like obviously, like later on in the show's lifespan, obviously we're shooting somewhere in LA. If we need a desert, like it's not a long drive to find one,
right.
but we're gonna find the same one every time. So if we want to set something apart, we're gonna need to go someplace else. And setting the stage really early on for like, yeah, we're gonna go all the way if we need something different.
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna screw around. Like, there's not the X-Files. We're not going to be in every part of the world, but always somewhere in Vancouver.
Yes, yes. Okay, so now here we have the new opening title sequence. Always a big deal for Star Trek, but I think now, well, it's interesting in that it's now the modern era of television. So, I mean, just thoughts on the sequence. What do you think?
I mean, it's definitely really good. Like it's it's a title sequence that I don't hate. Like that's a big deal because like there are a lot of shows that like I love and I can't stand their title sequences, and so like the first time I saw the Daredevil title sequence, I was like, oh, this is awesome. And like the 23rd time I saw it, I was like, I get it. It's like a wax thing. Yeah, all right. Is there a skip this button? They should make one, and then they did. So I credit me. But like there are shows where like from day one I hated the title sequence. Orange is the New Black. That's a good example. And like I get sick of it. But like Game of Thrones and this right now are the two title sequences that when they come on, I'm not looking for a way to skip them.
Okay, see, that's interesting because I think that, just as we've entered sort of the golden age of television, I think we've also entered the golden age of television opening title sequences. I mean, I tend to love them. I mean, True Detective, both of
Oh yeah, True
them
Detective was really
is
good.
awesome. I love Westworlds, and
Yeah.
I mean, I love this one. I really, really
I got a little
do.
tired of Westworlds at a certain point. Let's
Okay.
go off topic and talk about Westworld for a while.
No. But one of the things which I think is really interesting, which is just a super simple thing, and yet I think it's really, really effective in terms of making a show more cinematic, is when you have these opening title sequences. Not only do they look fantastic, but I love the idea of integrating the writers and the director of that particular episode into what feels like a permanent thing, because it makes it feel more like a movie. You don't have the credits just coming up on the screen as you do like with all other 728 hours of Star Trek or 729 hours of Star Trek or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
It's also like the norm for television.
It
Like
is.
the title sequence is always the same, and the credits for the episode, the individual credits for the episode, come up during the episode proper.
Right. And now, I mean, I'm guessing it's probably just easier to do, technologically speaking. You just, find and replace or whatever. But I mean, I'm not trying to simplify it to, but it's
They only
such
did it because it's easy.
it's such an easy and yet extremely effective way of just kind of like finishing the product in order to give it like that much added value. It's very similar to these damn black bars that we're seeing at the top and bottom of the screen right now. I mean, like you scale it down to make it 2-to-1, and just like Russell Mulcahy used to say back in the 80s, it's like you have no money for music videos, put black bars in the top and bottom, all of a sudden it looks cinematic. So hey.
All right. Okay, so you got two super weirdly specific references. The Ron Moore thing, if you don't know.
Okay.
The Ron Moore thing.
I think most people
and
know
Russell
that.
Mulcahy was a director. He's still around.
He's still directing. He's directed more music videos than anyone in history. A lot of stuff for Duran Duran and everything. And he's also the director of the original Highlander movie. So there you go.
Yep.
Okay, I like this scene right here because it's introducing the characters and everything, but one of the things which I wasn't really expecting, which I think is actually pretty funny and effective, is the relationship between Burnham and Saru here seems very kind of like playful, almost like brother and sistery. And I don't know, I like that. I was not expecting that at this particular point in time, but I think it's pretty cool, So...
Yeah, Saru's an interesting character. Right after the first episode finished, I was like, what is the deal? How does his biology? How did he evolve? I'm really curious because later on he has a thing. I'll address it when it comes up, but so many questions.
Well, I mean, I think I know what you're talking about. The idea where he's like, I'm basically your cattle of old or whatever,
Yeah.
And he even says that he was bred to be, like a prey or whatever.
Yeah.
I've
lots of questions there.
I've got to think, I mean, just listening to, Brian Fuller talk about everything, in particular Hannibal and stuff, I've got to think that has to be a statement that he was trying to make on basically the, livestock industry or whatever, the food industry, really.
Yeah. I don't disagree. It's just the question of how does it work? Like the world that he comes from must be so weird.
But I mean, even that, I think making him a sentient being, I think, is Fuller making a statement on, the fact that perhaps there is no difference. You know what I mean?
Of course. It's just the idea that there's a culture and technology and language that changes everything. If pigs formed little towns and elected the mayor pig, that would really screw things up. It would not be long before there were riots everywhere about people eating them.
Sure. Yeah.
So the world that he comes from, if that's a thing, that's gotta be weird and super interesting. And
sure.
It made me think, I really want to see that. As cool as all these Klingons and whatnot are, I want to see his planet.
Well, one of the things that they keep on talking about is, I believe it's going to be episode 8, which is Kirsten Byers' episode, is the Saru episode. They say in a lot of ways it is most traditional Trek. It's, kind of standalone-y, and everyone involved with the show has talked about how amazing it is. So that's something that we can probably look forward to. I guess it would be the final episode before the break, if my calculations are correct. So
you should check those calculations.
Yeah. So here we have Burnham making her spacewalk
Yep.
over to the anomaly or whatever it is, and on After Trek there was a whole segment where they showed how they shot this scene on stage 16 on the Paramount lot, and it was interesting, I guess.
There's an aspect of this that I like. I like the like this exosuit that she's got on. This Tony Stark meets Guardians of the Galaxy thing, and like it is very plausible, but it also manages to like conform to the silhouette of the motion pictures
Mm-hmm.
spacesuit. Like I was like, that's pretty good design right there.
They had it at Vegas, so I got to see it up close, and the detail on it is amazing. Apparently,
I don't doubt it. It's definitely well done.
it only weighs 25 pounds, which is pretty impressive too.
Well, in space, it doesn't weigh anything.
Yeah, but for an actress on the set of a TV show,
You're breaking the illusion.
So I just want to mention something here, just because whatever, and I'm sure it's just because we're American and whatever, but everyone has been referring to the ship as the Shenzhou, right? And Christopher Jones, publisher of the network, the first time he ever talked about it, he called it the Shenzhou, and like we had like kind of like a discussion about that, and he's like, that seems to be how it would be pronounced because he lives in Japan. I think it's Shenzhou. And we're like, yeah, sure, right, whatever, Chris. Everyone else is saying Shenzhou. Clearly, you're wrong. I don't know if the conversation went exactly like that, but, basically. And here they start saying Shenzhou all the time. So, good call,
I think,
Chris.
I'm not like Chinese or Japanese, but like I've read a lot of names and I've listened to a lot of audiobooks, and I've heard a lot of these names said in a lot of different ways, and I have found that very often like it's super hard for an American who doesn't speak the language to correctly pronounce some of the sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's Shenzhou. I think it's like I think that that ZH is a loose approximation of the sound, which
Sure.
is like Shenzhou.
Right. Okay, so here she's looking at the sculpture, as she's calling it, but what is actually the Klingon sarcophagus ship, as it has come to be known, or whatever.
Yep.
This whole thing is really interesting in terms of like first contact or whatever, even though it's not first contact, right? We've met the Klingons before, but just the idea of, already you're getting into some complicated territory in terms of like good guys versus bad guys. It isn't that, black and white thing that we have in the original series, I guess, more than anything, where there's that sort of idea of like the Klingons are these evil, warriors who are going to kill everyone. Like, she does land on the ship, but then again, the ship is in Federation space, but then
Yep.
again, the ship may have even tried to lure them here, with that by destroying that probe or whatever, that idea. But here, now this is a thing, and that's the torchbearer costume, with which they made a huge deal about. I saw that in Vegas too. The detail on that is absolutely insane. But and you see it here for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, they make this is clearly like a very like designed thing, and like you get a good look at it from one angle, and then it's just gone.
Yeah. Now, but one of the,
Kind of a bummer.
That sequence though, right there, okay? I've watched this thing like 6 times now. Well, that sequence at least. And
6 times.
It's
only been 22 and a half hours.
That shot, not the entire thing. I've watched the entire thing 3 times now because
okay.
Well, I wanted to prepare for this, but it is. It feels like there's a shot missing. Like I honestly do not know how you get from point A to point B being Klingon stabbed through the chest with his own batleth. You know, I don't see how those events occurred, like on an actual, you know, you know, point by point thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I do you get a good look at the angle of the blade? I don't know.
No.
Like, let's JFK assassination this sequence and figure out exactly what happened there.
That's the end of the act.
Do we have a stabilized version of that footage?
So, okay, we're back. Just for anyone who knows, we're looking at the torchbearer's
Oh, that was a commercial
body.
break?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, okay, so there's Takuvma. Now, here's one of the things which is really interesting, and, you know, obviously we'll get into this, but, like, one of the things which I think is really cool in the way that they sort of push to the marketing or whatever prior to the release of this show is that they didn't do the thing which, well, you know, every TV show used to do and every Star Trek TV show used to do, where it's like, here's the cast. These are the regulars. You've got your captain, you've got your first officer, you got your doctor, you got your science officer. You know, they were just like, these people are on it. These people are on it. These people are on it. And it's like, wow, there's like 17,000 people on this show. Like, is that like are these all regulars or whatever? And they never specified. They never said who the main actors were on this show. So you really have no idea, like, who's safe, who's going to make it, you know, to the next episode. It's like, you know, this person could die before, you know, the end of the pilot. And in some cases, you know, they do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that Game of Thrones philosophy, which I think is really cool, and which is one of the things which is really going to make this show stand out from other iterations of Trek. Obviously, you know, this is how you do it now, but I mean, I think that's kind of the thing with this show, and, you know, the thing which we've talked about a lot, which is, as you know, progressive as Star Trek is in terms of content, lots of times, usually because of budgetary restraints or whatever, but they've been sort of behind the times in terms of their aesthetic quality, and it really seems like now they've finally caught up and are on the cutting edge of TV, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think part of that is just because Star Trek is so established now, because like there's a line of reasoning that goes behind like how you tell a story that has fantastical elements in it. Like, you know, if your character can, you know, like wander through people's dreams, like you don't start your story in a dream and like then confuse the audience as to who has what abilities. Like you have to tell the story in a way that is traditional and establish the fantastical elements in a way that can be understood by the audience. Star Trek is so like part of like the culture now that everyone knows how phasers and transporters and warp drives work. We all know like the basics of this world. You know, we all know what Vulcans are and Klingons are. So like they can feel a little bit more free to do things unusual because no one's going to be confused. No one's going to be like, where did that glass bubble she was in go?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now this sequence, I mean, I guess talking about, you know, that, I mean, Vulcans, you know, that's the thing that people know about. But this sequence, one of the things which I think is interesting about it, well, the sequence that just ended, at least, is, yes, this takes place in the prime timeline, and, you know, yes, there are some choices which are being made which may conflict with, you know, the look of things in that timeline, but...
Yeah, why doesn't everything look bad?
But I do think that it's interesting how, like in that scene, yes, the idea of that Vulcan, you know, mind exercise comes from Star Trek 4, but like the kids training in those little bubble things that are like in the ground, like that's straight up out of Star Trek '09, which of course is in the you know, Kelvin timeline, although that sequence I think maybe would have taken place in the... No, maybe not. No, I think probably that sequence still would have been in the Kelvin timeline. But it's like, yeah, no, that's something which is going to cross over in either timeline and you know, still work perfectly fine. I think that's cool.
Well, our buddy Drew made a comment about how like the Kelvin incident changed so much that the Vulcan like training pods are different in very peculiar and specific ways, like the holographic bubble around them.
You know, I think that it's quite possible that there are, you know, training pods in one district, you know, where maybe public school funding isn't what it should be.
Ah, there you go. There you go. You made it all made sense. See, I just attributed it to chaos theory and posted a GIF of Jeff Goldblum from Jurassic Park.
Okay, well, I guess that could be as well. Yeah. So here we have Burnham awake, letting Georgiou know that the Klingons are out there, and everyone else is rather skeptical of that since she just had a blow to the head, which I guess is also understandable, but, you know, I guess it's time to get on top of things here. It is sort of coincidental. I mean, I don't know if that was the last incident that they had with the Klingons, but, you know, her family is killed in a Klingon terrorist attack, and then she's the one who essentially starts the war with the Klingons, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't look great.
But
It does kind of look like she did on purpose.
yeah, but also, I mean, the fact that she didn't makes it seem kind of coincidental. I like his little ear things that come out of the back of his head when he gets scared like that.
Yeah.
That's cute. Yeah.
Yeah. God, so many questions about that guy.
So here we just saw a Klingon ship decloak, which is weird because, I mean, I think, well, I don't think that this is ever established in the continuity. I think there was some speculation that the Klingons got their cloaking technology. That's the end of the act. They got their cloaking technology from the Romulans, right? Isn't that sort of like the thinking? I know there's a lot of confusion because like the Klingons gave the Romulans some ships. In other words, they used the same models, you know, for those shots on the original series. You know, I don't know, but I guess
You got to
it
wave
was,
your hand a little bit for those.
yeah, and it was never. I don't think actually. I think it was just speculation on the part of people. So
Well, like they have like a clearly contentious relationship. You know, like it's a whole like elves dwarves thing.
hmm.
Everyone knows Vulcans and Klingons. No, not Vulcans. Romulans and Klingons hate each other. So, like there has to be a history there.
Yeah, but for at one point they were allies, right? Which probably would have
Maybe
been right.
maybe more like trading partners or neighbors that bought and sold things.
Yeah. So here they're trying to figure out who the new torchbearer will be, and this albino Klingon speaks up and decides to run with it. And I did not think about this at all, but last night Robert Hewitt Wolf tweeted, hey, I don't know whether or not that's supposed to be the albino from Blood Oath, the Deep Space Nine episode, but if this is supposed to be his origin, then I'm totally okay with that. And
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. Like, I wonder if that's the intent. I mean, we know that there are a lot of DS9 fans in that writer's room, you know, and who's to say it's not? But this is an interesting character, though, because, like, in all of the lead up, they would talk about, oh, this Klingon is played by this guy, and this Klingon is played by this woman. And pretty much all of the actors, you know, and who were of any sort of importance were established, you know, in what roles they were playing. And then the convention rolls around, and there's, like, banners and stuff with this guy, Voke, right? And everyone's like, who the Voke is that, you know? I mean, it's like there's no actors assigned to him or anything like that. No one has heard of this guy, and now all of a sudden he's like super prominent. And like there was a lot of speculation that it might be Sam Witwer, but it's not. It's just, you know, like an actor who doesn't even get like a sole screen credit. He's just like listed in the, you know, like also starring blah blah blah. And it's like, wow, it seems like this character is much more prominent than they're crediting him with being, you know?
Literally crediting him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of, it seems like, they're doing the bait and switch thing. Because, like, they establish Takuvma, and then they reveal, this even creepier looking albino Klingon.
Yeah. Yeah.
That seems to be the idea. Like, you don't think Takuvma's gonna die.
I kind of had my suspicions, to be completely honest with you, but
Yeah, because we know going into this, like, we know that, like, there's a ship called Discovery, like, like, there a lot's gonna blow up before we get to, like, where we're going.
mm-hmm.
So, like, you kind of, like, watch all of this, like, how many of these characters are gonna make it there? Like, you run off, like, a checklist in your head of, like, they're probably gonna kill a few of these guys.
That's true. Although some of them are kind of interesting, and we can get into why in the next episode. But yeah, I mean, we should probably talk about that. The fact that, I mean, here we are, all this stuff is taking place on the Shenzhou, and there is no Discovery to be seen. I mean, yes, in the credits, which I was like diligently like writing. I mean, you don't know how much time I spent just going through all of the credits with a fine-tooth comb, trying to figure out exactly who's doing what and everything. And there are 6 credited stars of this show, like in the traditional, like 7 cast members of the original series or 7 of, next gen, whatever. There's 6 here. And we only see 2 in these first 2 episodes. That's impressive to me.
Sonequa Martin Green and Doug Jones.
Yep, that's it.
That's what I thought.
And as soon as because I mean, obviously everyone was also speculating, like, is Michelle Yeoh gonna bite the dust? And as soon as it said, and special guest star Michelle Yeoh, I'm like, oh, she's gone. She's a goner. Although,
come on, we all knew that.
Well,
I was not aware of, like, 90%, I would guess, of the stuff that you were looking through, and I was like, she probably dies at the first or second episode.
But the thing which is really weird about that is just looking at, the social media, footprint, the selfies and the everything and the who's, where, when. Even last night on After Trek, Michelle Yeoh was in Toronto for a big time movie star who is not working on a show after the first 2 episodes. She spends a lot of time hanging out with these dudes in Toronto. So I really think that there's going to be, I mean, as we've already established in this episode, I think there's going to be a decent amount of flashbacking going on throughout the course of this season. And I don't think
it's flashing back.
Okay, whatever. I don't think that we've seen the end of Michelle Yeoh. I think we're going to see her numerous times throughout the season. That's just my guess, but I think that's what's going to happen.
It seems very likely because, you get her in there and you're like, we're going to put her to use. I mean, we're not going to waste this person. She's a good resource.
Sure. I mean, sometimes, you've got the philosophy of like with Lost, originally the pilot was going to be Michael Keaton, right? And they were going to kill him in the first episode or something like that. It was something along those lines. I forget exactly what it was. And then they decided not to do that. But yeah, but the idea of that sort of misdirection, but get a big name star in there to launch your show and then kill him off,
But I mean, that's kind of the thing that they like. It's clear that they're doing some of that. I mean,
yeah,
it's the same thing with Kovma and albino guy.
Sure, yeah, Volk is his name.
I know his name. I'm just not going to say it because I can't get past how creepy he is.
He's a cool looking Klingon, The Klingons definitely look cool.
Yep.
And they all speak Klingon, which is an interesting choice.
Okay, so the holograms thing, like they've got view screens, they've got holograms.
That's the end of the act.
When they have the hologram on the other person's bridge and they walk around that bridge, how do they not bump into things? Like they don't like bump into anything. They like don't walk through objects. Are the bridges all laid out the same?
Maybe it's adaptive, or
Maybe.
maybe um,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we just haven't seen that happen yet.
Okay. Yeah.
You
That
know?
works. So a lot of questions. I guess hologram technology falls apart at some point in the next few years, so they stop using them. Maybe they're very unreliable.
So here she is in her quarters. She's going to make a phone call to her uh, adoptive dad, Sarek.
Yep.
Okay,
I,
so
I have no problem with her not being part of the history up until this point,
yeah,
except it definitely occurs to me how strange it is.
but that's Spock, right? Spock didn't tell Captain Kirk that his dad was the ambassador. He didn't tell Kirk that he had a wife. He didn't tell him that he had a brother. So
Yeah. Yeah. Spock doesn't reveal a lot of stuff that hasn't been written yet.
that's true. That's true.
Like if it hasn't been written yet, Spock is very tight-lipped about it.
David Mack posted this amazing picture that someone did, where it was a drawing in the animated series style, but it was done as like the Sarek family portrait or whatever. So it had like Sarek from the animated series and Amanda, and then Spock, like young Spock with his salat, and everything. And then it had two other people, like a teenager who was clearly, Burnham, and then a
Hmm.
slightly older dude in his maybe like 20s who was Cybok. I thought
Sure.
that was cool. That was cool.
Why not? This guy's a pretty decent Sarek.
Yeah, I mean James Frain, he's a really good actor. Always liked him in everything, especially Reindeer Games. My only, I guess, complaint, and this is my own personal thing. I mean, it's a choice that they made. It's just a choice that I don't agree with. I mean, if I were making this show, I totally would have
I know.
hired Ben Cross, since I mean, there's no reason not to, right? I mean, maybe they're worried about confusing things, but I think if you can make that crossover, you make it.
Well, isn't there like that's sort of a thing? Like, isn't there like a legitimate like legal problem with that because like that's a different company's property?
I don't think so, because I mean they're able to get along in terms of using Leonard Nimoy as Spock, right? So
Wait, do they use Leonard Nimoy as Spock here?
no, I mean in Star Trek '09, right?
Right, but like that's using the original series. This is like a new thing. This is like a CBS property.
I don't
I,
think it.
I don't. All right, fine. I mean, maybe I'm wrong because I got the impression that there was like a legal barrier to using things from the JJ verse.
I really don't think it's a legal barrier. I mean I don't know. I'm not an expert on it, but the impression that I get is that the choice to separate the two was done more. They decided to go the DC route instead of the Marvel route. Have two separate continuities, and basically that way CBS and Paramount never have to talk to each other, never have to coordinate and try to create this larger universe. They're just each doing their own things, and movies will be in the Kelvin timeline, and TV shows will be in the Prime timeline, and never the two shall meet. Unless it's time for sweeps or something, right?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah. So, okay, here's Burnham losing her cool, snapping at Georgiou. Now, I mean, her tactics may not be that great, but there's no reason to say that she's wrong here, right?
It when I was watching this yesterday, I was like, oh, it's the yesterday's Enterprise thing. Like you have to strike, you have to put up a fight, or they're gonna come at you.
Yeah, but it's not even that. I mean, one of the writers, Kemp Powers, was saying on Twitter today, the Vulcan hello is the Glasgow kiss, which is a headbutt.
Uh-huh.
It's like that's the language that Klingons relate to, right? That's the one that they respect.
Yeah.
But they're not going to like wipe you off the face of the earth for that, right? They're just going to be like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't. I think that the idea is like if they don't understand where you're coming from, they're going to see you as an enemy or something to destroy.
Yeah.
So the idea of like firing, it establishes a relationship. Like, we are enemies, and they're like, okay, I get that.
Yeah.
But if you don't, it's like they interpret that like we come in peace line. They interpret that as being like disingenuous and evil, and they're trying to lull you into a false sense of security so they can slit your throat when you're not looking. Like they are remarkably suspicious for a very forthright culture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're definitely. This scene, I was definitely on the edge of my seat because I'm like, don't do it, you know. But even though, I mean, she's probably right? But just the idea of like and like, is she going to be able to convince these dudes to do this? And then, and here comes Georgiou with that really, really cool looking phaser, and it's game over, man.
It looks exactly like the old phasers.
But it actually has a bit of a cage touch to it. It's pretty awesome. And apparently, I think McFarlane is the ones who are making them. They're making toys, but they're like, scanning the original props. So they're going to be like, basically, you're going to be able to get like a screen accurate version of that thing for like $25, or whatever. I think that's pretty awesome. But these Klingon ships looking very alien and Klingon-y, I guess, right? But
yeah,
sort of Klingon-y.
I would have liked just a little bit of continuity.
Yeah,
like one ship that looked kind of like it. The original series ships.
And I guess that's kind of what they were going for with the main one, is it sort of had almost a basic outline of like, but yeah. All right, so that was episode 1. Any final thoughts, Max?
Well, when this ended last night, I was like, good. No more commercials, ever.
Well, you watched the live stream. I immediately went to the app and didn't even watch commercials for that. So, but now we can live in the CBS All Access world. So everything is
the Cadillac of networks.
Yes.
And by that, I mean very appealing to old people.
Be sure to check out our Discovery coverage throughout the week. Live from the Edge airs on Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern and will be released as a podcast on Tuesday mornings. Our commentary will be available as Tracks from the Edge on Wednesday. We'll discuss your feedback on Postcards from the Edge on Thursday. And of course, you can catch full analysis of the Edge main show on Friday. To wrap up the week, join us for Notes from the Edge on Saturday for links between Discovery and the broader franchise. You'll find all of these in the main feed for The Edge and in the Trek FM master feed. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Discovery. The best place to do that is in the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook, where Amy Nelson will collect your feedback for Postcards from the Edge. You can also find us on Twitter at TrekFM or send us an email using the contact form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Choose to send to a show and choose The Edge. We'd also like to thank our associate producers today, Norman C. Lau, Tony Robinson, Thomas Puleo, Lisa Slack, and Shoaib Mirza. Thank you very much, guys. We really appreciate it. If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows going and even become an AP yourself, visit patreon.com/trekfm for all the details. All right. Well, that's it for this episode of Tracks from the Edge. Join us in just a little bit now for episode 2 of Tracks from the Edge, in which we look at Battle at the Binary Stars.